Hey everybody, welcome back. Mike from Spectre Comics. If you clicked this video to be amazed, well, buckle your seatbelts. This is probably not your video. But before you click away, today I wanted to talk about comic page layout, particularly laying out an action scene. Now, when I think about new comic pages, staring at a blank sheet of paper, I think of two types of pages. One is the continuation of a scene from a previous page, and the second type is basically a brand new scene. Now the page we're laying out is a continuation of our previous video where we were continuing the action sequence from the previous page. So we're going to be doing the continuation of a scene. Now it's actually been a couple of weeks since I've drawn anything, so these videos are actually helping me keep a little more consistency with drawing, because as I make the videos, as I'm trying to get a video out every single week, it's actually helping me draw and sketch. And again, my goal is to get this comic sketched in the next few months, definitely before the end of the year, so that I can start inking issue 7 of Spectre Comics. Now, before we get too far in actually sketching this page out, I wanted to show what a completed page in my comic looks like, so you understand how I go from this very sketchy, very loose pencil drawing to a final ink drawing. So that way you really understand how much detail I put in the pencils and then how much detail ends up in a final page. So we'll just show that here. Now, I actually haven't drawn anything in a couple of weeks. And one of the things that documenting the drawing process in these videos is helping me create content for the channel, but also helping me get the pages finished, because it's easy for me to go a month or 2 months without drawing anything. And I don't really want to do that, as my desire is to get this comic book sketched in the next couple of months and then actually start inking before the end of the year so I can get issue 7 completed quickly. I definitely don't want it to take as long as issue 6 took me, which was several years. And issue 7, I want to get issue 7 done, and then issue 8 will wrap up this current storyline that I'm working on. Now, the desire to draw doesn't always match the energy that you have to do the drawing. I always desire to draw. I like doing it. It's a good hobby for me. The problem is that you don't always feel like drawing. If I don't feel like drawing, I don't get the best quality out of my work. Now, doing these pencil sketches, the idea is not to have the highest quality, but you do want to have some sort of decent drawing to start from, so when you get to the inks, and when I get to the inks, I can do my best inking because I have a good reference underlay to work from. Now, one of the difficulties when a comic book takes a long time is just keeping the drawing consistent over time, because several things happen. Issue 4, I completely switched my process going from traditional pencils and inking on paper to working digitally. Issue 4, I started working digitally, and issue 5 was completely drawn digitally beyond the pencil sketches. So that completely changed my process, completely changed the way I did the work I was doing, and also changed what the comic result actually looked like as a final product. If you go back to issue 1 of Spectre Comics and then you look at issue 6, which I just completed last year, you will definitely see a difference in the way I draw, the quality of the pages that were printed. Everything will look slightly different, and I didn't really want to do that in a single storyline. Another thing that happens is that if you draw over many years, you naturally improve the way you draw. You just learn more things along the way. And I've definitely improved my art since I started issue 1, and you will definitely see a difference, a slight subtle changes in the characters. If you literally compare issue 1 to issue 6, there's much improvement in anatomy and the figure drawing, the action, the gestures. I've signed up for several online courses in order to improve my gesture drawing, my figure drawing, because I understand that that's a weakness of mine and I want to improve. Now, even though my work is cartoony, you still use the same principles in order to complete good character design. So there really is a challenge to being a part-time artist. Now, as I said, I'm a full-time architect, but I do these comics on the side in my spare time, which I don't have much of, but I do, as a hobby of mine, I do like to continually draw and continually try to improve the way I draw. So, and it's funny because I always wondered how fast I could actually complete a comic if it was my full-time job. If I worked on my comics, 5 days a week, 8 hours a day, like a normal job, I wonder, could I complete an issue in a month? You go to the comic book stores, and most issues of comics, Batman, Spider-Man, everybody, those come out monthly, and there's somebody that works on it full time. Again, there's a team of people, somebody writing, somebody drawing, somebody inking, somebody coloring. I'm doing basically everything myself, but I did wonder, if I did my comics on my own and I did them full time as a job, how much could I actually accomplish in, let's say, a month? Now, I think I'd actually be nervous relying on my art for my full-time income. I know a lot of artists that go to Comicon and stuff, they do that for a living. They go to the shows, they get commissions, they do a lot of their own artwork, they write comics, draw comics. I would actually be nervous if I had to rely on that. It was a funny story. The first time I went to C2E2, I had somebody approach my table. I had my comics laid out. I had my banner behind me, not this one, but another banner that I used at the time. And somebody said, hey, we like your style. We want to hire you to do some drawings. And I said, oh, I don't do commissions. And the reason I said that is because if I start drawing something and I don't like the way it looks, I can just stop and quit and try it again or whatever. There's no time limit. I don't have to complete the drawing if I'm struggling with something. And again, as I'm not a full-time artist, it doesn't matter to me if I finish something, I'll just draw something else. But this person offered me basically a commission and I turned it down. I didn't think, because if I end up not being able to deliver what they're asking for, which is what I was nervous about, I felt, well, they're not getting what they're paying for, and I can't just quit because now they've hired me to do this. I'm doing this for actual money. Somebody's paying for me, and then somebody's relying on me. So I quickly turned down the commission. I actually had 2 or 3 people ask me, but the first one that came to me kind of took me. I didn't offer commissions at my table. A lot of artists at Artist Alley say, commissions, this much money, whatever it is. I never said that was one of the things I did. I just was trying to sell my comics and some of my art, and that was it. But when you go to Comic-Con, some people, they like what you do and they want to pay you to do more of it. So I ended up not taking that commission, as I said. So, but again, it's about confidence, and I have confidence in my work for myself, but I don't necessarily have confidence for other people. If I was to do something and get paid doing it, it would be cool to get paid doing my art, but I would want it to be on my own terms. In other words, selling my comics or selling drawings that I did that I have completed, rather than somebody saying, we want you to draw this and we're going to pay you for it. So as I said, some artists rely on these commissions, and they go and they have their websites and they go to Comic-Con and they say open for commissions, and they want to just sell their artwork. Now you probably noticed that my art is very cartoony, and I do like cartoons. I like drawing cartoons. I like comics. I like the style that I draw in, but I do struggle drawing faces and figures, and that's why I am taking those online courses, because I do want to actually improve what I'm doing, and maybe improve my art, and maybe someday I can take those commissions because I will have the confidence to draw anything that somebody asks me to draw. I'd actually like to take an in-person art class with an instructor, but I've just not been able to find one in my area. Now, as I mentioned at the beginning of this video, this page and the previous page are part of an action sequence where the Spectre encounters some rock creatures that are kind of embedded into the cliff wall. They loosen them, the rock creatures attack them, and now they have to either fight back or somehow figure out a way to escape these attacking creatures. Now, what's hard in a scene like this is that everything happens quickly. There's a lot of action, there's a lot of different characters that I have to worry about, and what ends up happening is, to show quick action, I'm going to have to end up drawing a lot more panels so that I can show each action sequentially quickly, and it will just, the more panels I put on and the smaller the panels are, you follow as a sequence of action events. Now, it's much easier, as I've said before, that if you're just having dialogue between characters, they're just talking to each other, they're in a room, it's a lot easier. You can go much slower, the panels can be bigger, show more information about the room and the space they're in. But when you have a quick action sequence, a lot of quick small panels to document the action is what I'm actually going to have to go for here. Now, what I don't like about that is that the pages tend to get very busy, and it takes a lot of extra drawing to draw all these extra panels because you got to replicate. Now, I do use the copy feature if there's something similar from one panel to the next panel, but the quicker, smaller panels will in your head be read as quick motion and quick action. So that's probably what I'm going to have to end up going through here. Now, in the middle panel of this scene, I pulled the camera way back so you just have a larger context of the space so that you can kind of see what's going on. You can see where all the different characters are. And in a sequence like this, it's good every once in a while to pull the camera back to see an establishing shot so that you can remind yourself where all the characters are. If you do the many panels, as I just mentioned, you may not get the full context of what's going on with everybody in the scene. Now, the unfortunate thing is I do have a lot of characters in the scene. There's got the 2 rock creatures, and the entire Spectre crew are scattered about the area. So by pulling the middle panel back, I can see the rock creature hitting the wall, knocking the other rock creature loose, but then I get to see where Storbo and Arco are and where Spark and Risa are at the same time. So again, there's 6 or 7 characters in this scene, and I want to be able to tell the reader where each one is. Another thing is that even though these drawings are really sketchy, it's so much easier to edit a scene and a character in a drawing when you have something already down on paper. So even though these sketches are very crude and very sketchy, and it turns out that as this sequence goes on quicker and quicker, you tend to want to draw faster, and that's very hard to do. And the faster I draw, the worse my drawing actually gets, because you're just trying to get it down on paper. So that's where the very crude sketches come in. And then again, I showed the final inks at the beginning of this video so that you can kind of see what a final page looks like. Now, I also wanted to show, now at the beginning of the video, I did show a final inked page, but I also wanted to show you what my pencils actually looked like before I moved to drawing on a tablet, because I drew the pencils almost as final as the inks are, maybe with a little less detail, but sharp lines, nothing sketchy, nothing scribbly, very fine lines, using straight edges, using circle templates, and everything done by hand, so that when I got to the inking, I could just basically trace my own work and just add my line thicknesses as I went along. So this is an example of what old pencils looked like before. Now again, it took a lot of time to do that drawing, and then inking maybe took slightly less time, but still a lot of time. So by going to working digitally on a tablet, I actually was able to save a step and not having to do final pencils before I got to the inks. Now I can just go straight from a scribbled sketch to a final inking process. And I definitely do prefer working digitally, just because it saves a couple of steps, and the end result ends up looking much better, much cleaner, and I can actually zoom in. I've gotten so used to being able to zoom in and draw very finely with even 1 pixel in some areas for some very fine detail. You can't do that. You kind of get used to doing it on a tablet, and then when you go to draw by hand, you realize you can't zoom in. You know, the pencil thickness is a certain thickness, you draw on the paper, and you can't get really zoomed in and draw really fine detail in the distance. So I do like working on a tablet better. It just offers me more opportunity to be a little more precise. And then I don't have to do the scanning and the cleanup that I used to have to do when I was inking on actual paper, and then I scanned that ink into the computer. So this page is going to end up getting heavily edited as I move from pencils to inks. I'm going to have to be careful though, because the last 2 pages of this comic have taken up just a paragraph of my script. And as I mentioned in the last video, I don't want the book to get too long, because I want to keep it around 32 pages. Again, the more pages it is, the longer it takes to ink, and then it ends up taking longer to complete. So this is the final pencils of this page. I ended with Risa pointing out Spark's mistake for releasing another rock creature when he knocked it back into the cliff. So I will, when I get to the inking portion of this page, I will make another video, and I'll link back to this video so you can kind of compare what the pencils look like to the final inks of this exact page. That is it for this video. Hope you enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions or anything to say about the sketching process. I appreciate you watching. We will see you next time. Have a great day.